right, we're going to do Aquestive Therapeutics. Ticker is AQST. Small cap, almost a micro cap now, I think. Company, they are, let's actually get to that right away. What is the company really based on is this farm film technology. They're using it primarily for rescue drugs right now. So when there's an onset of the symptoms, this is whatever the drug or the indication or disease condition, you administer this and that should alleviate the symptoms. It is a oral film, sublingual or buccal, meaning like in the cheek. So you pop it into the mouth, and the inside your mouth there's a lot of blood vessels, so it's really easily, rapidly absorbed. So you need something to act real quick. One could argue that oral could be superior because just the amount of blood vessels and how thin the skin is there, and there's mucosa. I mean, it's just things are rapidly absorbed in the mouth. So it does offer a great route of administration. Not only that, as it's non-invasive versus an intermuscular injection, or in some cases there's rectal gels. So its biggest competition is basically anything that's a nasal formulation. So oral film and nasal formulations are, I think, going to be, besides just taking a pill, but for rapid onset, you need to the symptoms need to happen now. Life-saving drugs, farm film probably be the best outside of doing an IV, right? So, or nasal. Anyway, so moving on, that's their technology. They've got several approved drugs that utilize the technology, so we know it works. Suboxone definitely being the most well-known. The company licensed it out. They get a solid royalty stream for it. It's been holding up really well despite generics, but however, there is a concern that the royalties will start to fade as generics make more and more headway, claim larger percentage of the market. But at the same time, Suboxone, it's for opioid addiction, and I worked for a medical group where they had basically a pro bono opioid or Suboxone clinic, and I would be in that. Did some work in that office several times, and it's eye-opening. And I could say that Suboxone is critical to battling the opioid epidemic in this country, and I'm sure in other parts of this world. So they also have Sympazan. That's their proprietary. That's for LGS. That's their own. They also, let me go to this too. Pipeline. They still have there's Suboxone there, but they have some other ones that they've licensed out, partnered with, and those are relatively new to the market. So they're going to be getting some decent royalties coming at some point. They're not huge indications, but something's better than nothing. Upfront payments with some royalties. The company's going to need it. Let's see this one. Yeah, I'll see how this tadalafil. So that would be what? Who is that? It's used for erectile dysfunction, but also can be used for a few other blood pressure related indications. Why am I blanking on the branded drug that uses tadalafil? Cialis. There you go. That took a minute. So there's the pipeline. Let's moving on to. Well, actually, the pipeline, and then they still have a few other drugs coming up. We'll go over that in a minute. So that's where we're at. That's the background. The company pulls in some decent amount of revenue. Let's take a look at that. So Suboxone, like I said, Suboxone's let's just say royalty streams are the primary, and then they're Sympazan. Oh my gosh. There we go. Sapazan. That's working. They have that. They're pushing that. So that's their sales force. So that's paving the way for the hopeful approval of Libervant. So let's get into the Libervant situation, because that's basically, I think, the main influence on the share price right now and the performance. So Libervant, the updates there, you would say it's been a while. I mean, the FDA was supposed to give a decision on Libervant's NDA. The PDUFA date was on December something. I think it was right before Christmas. So we're about 7 months overdue here. And the FDA is yet, as far as I know, the FDA is yet to come up with an estimation of the timing of it. So it's probably due, the company says it's probably due to the orphan drug exclusivity issues. There is another drug that got approved back in early 2020, Valtoco, and that goes after acute treatment of seizure activity. Same thing, essentially the same thing, breakthrough seizures. It's a seizure drug. Theirs is a nasal route, and versus Libervant's, again, using the farm film, is using the oral film. So the problem there is Valtoco also got orphan drug exclusivity, which gives you up to 7 years, unless another drug or asset candidate gets an orphan drug exclusivity, and they can prove that their drug, in this case it would be Libervant, is clinically superior to Valtoco. I have yet to see a head-to-head on the data comparisons to see if it really is. Also, I don't know what the FDA is going to really see as clinically superior versus what the company sees clinically superior. Obviously, you're going to look at primary and secondary endpoints, but I mean, if it's comparative, I don't know if the FDA has to go into the granularity of certain things. I don't know. But you can't have two orphan drugs on the market at the same exact time. So one's going to lose it, or one's not going to get it. If I have to guess what's going on, it's either the FDA is it's backed itself into a corner, and it's giving Valtoco some time because they've been on the market. I don't know when they might have gotten launched by the end of the year, but they got approved in early of 2020. So let's assume that they launched in late 2020 or early 2021. They really haven't gotten too much time on the market if they're going to, FDA in some ways trying to be nice to them. I wouldn't think they are based upon, just following the science type of thing, but I think the last couple years has proven that the FDA does not necessarily always carry the most black and white, unbiased way of doing things. There is a little bit of playing nice to certain people and not to others. So I can imagine the FDA is just trying to give them some time, or they're really having an issue with the granularity, getting down and figuring out if it's technically clinically superior. Libervant technically clinically superior to Valtoco. Which is also, I'm about 50-50 with that, because I don't know what the percentage of superior, what is, there might be something that's clinically significant and you can do that statistically, but what the superiority part, I just don't know the parameters around that. So the FDA might have, what's the word I'm looking for? They just might decide what they believe is clinically superior and what's not. Better might not be clinically superior. Might not meet their own, imposed threshold of what is clinically superior. Anyway, so I have an issue there. It seems like I haven't seen any data or numbers or benchmarks to what is determined to be that. So the other issue we have is that the company right before, what was that, the Q1 earnings, right before they got rid of the previous CEO, right towards the end of the earnings call. He was talking about Libervant in 2027, which would make sense because it got approved. Voltalco got approved in 2020, so that's telling me that he might he might know or have figured out that it probably wasn't going to happen in the United States. And then also right under CNS programs, it's not like, oh, pending approval, waiting for FDA approval. It's seeking partner outside U.S. So between those two things, I'm starting to think that everybody, including the market and the street, knows that Libervant's not going to get on the market in the United States this year and might have to wait until 2027. So that brings us to the next situation, which is the share price, which we're now trading under $1. I'll go with valuation first, and then I'll bring up my next argument, I guess I would say, which is let's look at valuation here. So it's a B plus, and according to Seeking Alpha, which is, I shouldn't go with what the grade is, but you could just show price to sales forward and trailing 12 months is less than 1x, meaning that the company pulls in more revenue than its market cap. And you can see that the sector's trading around 4 to 5 enterprise value to sales, again, well under the sector median. Now let's go to earnings estimates. I know they're expecting a drop this year because of Suboxone. When I say the street, I don't mean the company, is expecting a little bit of a drop because Suboxone's lost. It's generic now, so you should expect those revenues to drop. But even if it does, though, still the valuation's crazy. I mean, trading under how much your revenue we pull in, your market cap is pretty crazy considering. Let's actually go to earnings estimates. Let's EPS. It's not like they're tearing through cash. I mean, it's not great. But, I mean, really 2 or 3 years away from being profitable, that's not that big of a deal. Looks attractive to me. Next, AQST 109. Actually, let's go to the PowerPoint. Sorry. Huh. Oh boy. Yeah, see, I think they know. Well, they're convinced themselves. I'm kind of going. I'm returning back to Libervant here. Near-term pipeline catalysts. This should be any second, any minute, and of any day should be the near term, because this should have been done 7 months ago, right? Not this one being the first. By the way, here's the film. And this is what you carry it in. You rip it open, take it. Someone else can give it to you. And the first thing after the pipeline overview is AQST 109, which I think is the home run, so maybe that's why it's first. But I'm pretty sure the last several the presentations have been with Libervant leading it off and not 109. But that's where I'm going next anyways. 109 is essentially, it's an epinephrine, treat anaphylaxis. So it would be their oral farm film version of an EpiPen. Now that's the auto injector, take it, jab it in the thigh, intramuscular injection. Here's an overview of the market. So there's roughly 50 million people in the United States that are at risk for it. Allergy costs 18 billion. Now that's chronic cost. That's a little bit, that's not the market for epinephrine, but it's in the billions. And then so here's some issues with obviously using the needle. So the idea is that if there's any issues, which for the person, the patient, and the person administering it, most people don't like working with needles. I mean, you could be skilled with needles, and you could still probably convince somebody who's, phlebotomist. Would you rather give them a oral film or needle? I'd have to imagine most people are looking for taking the oral film. Quick delivery, no needles, right? So non-invasive, it's safer. Same. And most people don't carry around like in a holster their EpiPen, whereas you can actually put that in like a wallet if needed. Mom's carrying around a couple EpiPens in their purses or pocketbooks, whatever. I think they'd rather have that ready to go. You can stick that. I wonder if you could put that in the car. I wonder if that's just temperature safety. I haven't probably looked at that yet. But the PK data so far for AQST 109 has been really strong. Now the big thing here is that they have the 505(b)(2) regulatory pathway, and it's also fast track designation. So what both of those dramatically reduce its regulatory path. So you don't have to do a huge, massive phase 3 trial to prove that epinephrine works, because everybody knows that epinephrine works. All they need to prove is that if epinephrine works with their farm film, and if they do the PK and PD studies, which the data here is showing that their way of administering it works. Rapid absorption, favorable PK. We can get into the data a little bit later on, but if it's under 15, which is it's at 12, it's good. So it's comparable. They are doing currently. I think they're doing some head-to-head with epinephrine and auto injectors, and like EpiPen. But the big thing. Let's actually get to that. See if I can find it. Let's just go to. Maybe it is this. What am I missing here? Alright, so press releases is in the newsroom, which makes sense, but I didn't see the tab for it. Oh, there it is. That's weird. I didn't see it on the drop down there. So this is the latest news. This is big because the data here is showing, or what they did with their trial here, or study, is they had people taking the AQST 109 2 minutes after consuming a peanut butter sandwich, which obviously peanut allergies being, probably, those are, tree nut allergies are usually pretty aggressive, but it's probably one of the ones that most people think about is peanut allergies. So if you figure if this person's going to eat a peanut butter sandwich and then here's the problem. If there's a peanut butter sandwich in the person's mouth, does it affect absorption? Can it get through remnants of peanut butter in the mouth? Is it that good is it that strong? Is the absorption rate to help if it's administered within 2 minutes or after 2 minutes eating the peanut butter sandwich? And the data showed that administering the film sublingually 2 minutes after consuming a peanut butter sandwich had no statistical impact on the resulting pharmacokinetics when compared to previous data in the initial Part 3 data set. So essentially, no difference. Okay, that's good. Tmax 12. Okay, great. And there's another one that they did right here. Data showed that swallowing the film whole, meaning just not even letting it absorb or disintegrate and absorb orally, just taking it, swallowing it, and then drinking with water, unexpectedly resulted in significant absorption of epinephrine. So it still might help the person out. I don't know. This finding is potential further de-risking development program by lowering the risks associated with. So just not doing it the right way. So even if you screw it up and you do it completely wrong, right? While slower than sublingual, still significantly faster than a 3.3 milligram injection. There you go. So essentially, we're looking at, potentially the new epinephrine product. So I think we're looking for. So this is the next thing, the data along with this. So we're looking for their end of phase 2 meeting with the FDA some point in Q4, which is good. I mean, even if it's at the very, very end of the year, we should probably know a timeline to potential approval, at some point towards the end of the year, maybe early part of next year. What's the next steps? What do you want us to do? What's the FDA want Aquestive to do to get this approved? Going back here. All right, so here we go. So that's next. So that's done. Repeat dosing comparative. Okay. And then versus auto injectors during Q3. And the pivotal PK study in the second half of 2022. Okay, so that's good. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a 2023 approval, early 2024, but you're looking at a potential game changer in the epinephrine market, which is a huge market. Best thing would be if they can get this somehow all buttoned up in about a year, but I doubt it. You never know, though. We'll see. So, let's see what we got next. What should we do? Libervant we've done. AQST. They have AQST 108, which is another epinephrine product, which they say they're going after a different indication with. There's a lot of uses for epinephrine, so I'd be interested. I don't know what it would be. It'd be interesting. So we got that. Let's go to valuation again. I know we're kind of going around in circles here, but because I've mentioned this before, is that they're, market cap's 42 million. As I said, they're going to pull in more. They pulled in more revenue last year. They're probably going to pull in more in revenue this year than their market cap. Like I said, which is kind of crazy. That being said, we did the earnings projections. We can go back to that real quick. I only made a quick brief note on that. Now, these are probably assuming that Libervant would be approved, which would be, would hurt, and that's probably why we're seeing the share price down so low. But, say like in 2025, I have to imagine if they can get AQST 109 across the finish line, that it's getting up to 162 million in the next several years, in the following years, would be easy. That could be, who knows how we'll do commercially. I shouldn't say that. It shouldn't be easy, because who knows who's pushing it. I'm not sure if the company's going to want to push it, because they've been going over their targets, mostly CNS right now. So Libervant CNS, LGS CNS. So that's where they have Sympazan is where that's where their sales force is taking this, and that's where they were hoping the sales force for that's been working that drug is paving the way for Libervant when it gets approved. So I don't know what their game plan is for commercialization for 109, because if you're going to go to allergists, they're not going to be the same people you're going to be pushing breakthrough seizure meds for. So that's interesting to think about. The other thing would be, would they look to, if they can't get Libervant orphan drug, or at least on the market, we'll just give it that. If they can't get in the market in the next year, do they give up on having a CNS program? Well, not just CNS programs, but having their sales force out there to push Sympazan, because it's not nearly as big of a market as Libervant. Actually, let's actually take a look at that. So it's not negligible, but it's to justify having both, or to having a sales force, I think they have to have both really out there. So perhaps the game plan would be, if they can't get Libervant on the market, maybe they cut the sales force, because it'd be kind of insane to keep a sales force out for this. And they probably could find someone to partner with here, license that out, cut the sales force, take Libervant outside the United States with a partner, and then that'll allow them to focus on AQST 109, which who knows if they want to go that way with a sales force, or find a partner there. But not having a huge commercial company or organization you can't do that with Sympazan. You can't have a huge. I shouldn't say that. Maybe it grows enough to support it, but if you're not going to have Libervant on the market anytime soon, until 2027, and you're going to hire more sales force just for AQST 109 and maintain the ones that you have now just for Sympazan, is probably not the best idea. you could really cut expenses. So maybe that's it. I don't know. They can't really make a move until the FDA says one thing or the other on Libervant. You know, if they say no, maybe they can cut this down, and that would be at least a positive spin on the negative news. They can give them, you know, like, hey, we're reducing expenses. We're going to try to put all our money into AQST 109. We can license out both of these drugs, reduce headcount drastically, focus on 109, see what we can do with 108, go that route. Finding partnerships, getting cash in. Yeah, that's probably it. So now, speaking of that, let's go look at financials. Balance sheet. Go to quarterly, I think. Or are we on annual right now? So they're grinding through. So they have this basically this quarter. I know, actually, let's go to that. I think I saw that on this financial summary. So they did pull off a direct offering of $8 million, which would probably keep the lights on until next quarter. Have an ATM, but you know, they have the shelf and the ATM going on there. The issue with that is you're doing that below $1 a share, so that's going to grind us down even more. Probably going to have to do a reverse split if they don't find a way to get some sort of bump in revenue over the next quarter or two. It's 2020 guidance, so they're thinking 42 to 47. Anything else that can help them out? No, it's basically maybe good or bad news on Libervant could help us out. Let's see what 109 can do. I think that last data's got me. I mean, the fact that you can eat a peanut butter jelly sandwich and it still works, or the person administers it the absolute worst way, which is just throw it in your mouth and chase it with water, and it still outperforms, I should say, outperforms the epinephrine injectable. I can't imagine them the head-to-head that's going on, and then the next study will be a failure. What are they looking to do? Yeah, gotta generate some cash, guys. Gotta get funds. Can't dilute under $1 a share. You know, that's great that you have it. That's good, but I mean that tells me you guys are not going to be going bankrupt, but crushing your shareholders is not going to help. Might help you guys out, but it's not going to help out the share price. All right, so that's done. So let's go to technicals. I know I'm all over the place. I apologize. So this is probably where we should be. This is where we were before. Actually, let's go to this. We were around here, right? And then they said, I think that's when they announced that the FDA was going to be behind considering the orphan drug. And then this, yeah, so we should probably be around $4, maybe $5. Now, if it was approved, I would have to assume it's even higher than that. But that started the sell-off. That's obviously a bad technical setup, right? So decreasing monthly. So this was the last gasp, technically, too. Not only, did we have bad news, so you have technical setup for it to be weakening up, and then the market also, obviously, first trading day of January was basically its best, and we're down here. Not to mention small cap healthcare and biotechs got hit basically the worst because they're anybody who's not pulling in any who's not profitable with interest rates. So AQST had basically all negative. So that's probably the main reason why we went from about $6 to, 86 cents. We went from actually like $6 to 60 something cents. Ay, ay, ay. Brutal. So that's where we're at right now. Technical, I mean, we got some positive notes here and there, but double bottom, bullish divergence on the RSI, a little bit better. See how this goes. Made contact here, came up here yesterday. Anchored VWAP is, you can see that, so here it is, that's the high, and you can see that it hasn't closed above it. Every time it went above it, wicked itself right back down. So nothing, we haven't seen any sort of solid punch through. And I like, when you start seeing positive updates equal positive move in the share price, that's when you can get excited. I could argue that, the market and the sector has seen, especially the sector, has seen a nice bounce since mid-June. This last month has been pretty decent. Good turnaround, especially, once we hit July, we really, the biotech started to see a bounce, so that's helping out. But then also, it's just positive updates move the share price up, whereas basically everything since the beginning of the year, from January all the way until June, the first half of the year, positive updates actually led to sell-offs. There would be a spike in the share price, but there'd be a subsequent selling off. So the algo is just grinding it down because, if no one's sitting there bidding it up because the overall market's selling off, you're going to have short algos just pile on. So that's what we saw, even though there were some solid positive updates in the first half of the year, such as orphan drug exclusivity, a fast track, and the confirmation of the 505(b)(2) for AQST 109, plus the data that came out early. So I would say this was the peanut butter and the water updates, the circumstantial update data for AQST 109 is the first positive update that has moved the share price with it. So that is a good sign. Game plan, I've been sticking to my buy thresholds and sell targets. I'm grinding my way to having a positive, moving this into a positive position soon. But it's chipping away. I'm not buying huge chunks of shares. It's just whenever I see a decent small little setup, I just add a little bit to it. I'll accumulate the position steadily because I don't think we're going to see a huge move in the share price until we hear Libervant. And in the case that they deny it and they say they're not going to put Libervant on, I am going. There's a strong capitulation. That's when I'll probably get aggressive because they can discount the share price all they want. I mean, there's going to be companies stepping in who want revenue right away that will, I shouldn't say it's definitely, but I have to imagine there's going to be some companies that'll come in and seeing the share price and how weak the company is will put some okay offers on the table for a potential buyout. I can't imagine it hasn't been yet. Maybe it's just because it's a technology company and buying them would, I mean, you get that Suboxone revenue instantly right in the arm, even though they're losing it, and then the potential of AQST 109. Can't believe there's somebody who hasn't just even taken it for that, but who knows. But anyway, I would be taking a gamble on that, basically, which is the company being too cheap for 109 down the road. So that's where I'm looking to. And actually, I've been a 109 fan probably since the beginning of the year in the first place. I know I was hopeful for Libervant because I thought it would have a really good commercial launch because they already paved their way with Extravin, so I didn't think it was going to be this huge endeavor. But now that the FDA is just slow rolling this, I've kind of written it off already, and it seems like the company's not like... The company's materials don't exactly... it's like they're kind of setting it up for a soft landing on, hey, this didn't work out. But we're not throwing away, but it's not going the way we wanted to go. Obviously, it's not going the way they wanted to go, but I think they're kind of giving us some hints that it's not going to get the orphan drug designation and be on the market. So that's what I have here. Stick to the buy thesis, and it's just all about looking down the road. I think from my point of view, I think a lot of people need to consider that the 109 is not that far away. We'll get a better idea towards the end of the year timeline-wise, but I think it's discounted for even the potential of AQST 109 several years down the road. EpiPen, a once blockbuster candidate, is really only not is lost its revenues simply just because there's generics now. There's several generics on the market and competition, intramuscular injections that are eating away at EpiPen. I think a film epinephrine, oral epinephrine, could easily revitalize that market, and I would personally pick that over it. I've never heard anybody say they love taking intramuscular injections versus popping something in their mouth. So it's potentially a blockbuster candidate. We'll see. So that's what I got. Our game plan right now is just to stay steady and stick to the buy targets. It's worked out thus far in so many other tickers. Very successful. And I hope it stays with this. All right. So AQST. That's about it. I'll probably do another update once we hear back from the FDA. I'll probably write an article on this sometime in the next month or so. Just huge stack of work, and but I'll get to it. All right, I hope that was helpful.